Artificial intelligence is quietly becoming a gatekeeper for some of life's biggest moments. We're talking about getting a job, securing a loan, even receiving medical care. But when an algorithm has that kind of power, how can we really be sure it's fair? And maybe more importantly, how do we know we can trust its judgment? So for this explainer, our guide is Chapter 3 of the Ethical AI and AI Security Glossary. It's put together by Virtualization Options LLC, and what's great is that it's designed for a non-technical audience, which makes it the perfect launchpad for us today.
Okay, let's make this real for a second. Imagine you've just applied for your dream job. You've polished your resume, you've written a killer cover letter, and the very first person to see it isn't a person at all. It's an AI. How in the world do you know it's giving you a fair shake? That's the question we're going to dig into.
So let's follow your application's journey as it makes its way through this automated system. We're going to break down the exact moments and the key concepts that really decide whether the AI's final call is a fair one.
The very first hurdle for your application? Well, it's the algorithm itself. And this is where a huge problem can pop up, because unfairness isn't just about feeding an AI bad data. It can actually be built right into the AI's design from the get-go.
And this has a name: algorithmic bias. The key thing to get here is that it's not just about the data the AI learns from. It's about the design choices made by the people who built it, what features they told it to look for, and what goals they told it to shoot for.
So how does this bias actually sneak in? Well, there are three big ways. First up, feature selection. An AI might not use race in its decision, but hey, what if it uses zip code? That can easily act as a substitute for race and, boom, you've got discrimination. Then there's label definition. Say the AI is told to find good employees using old company records. If that company has a history of promoting men over women, guess what? The AI will learn to prefer male candidates. And finally, you have optimization bias. The AI might be 95% accurate overall, which sounds amazing, but what if it's only 50% accurate for a small group of applicants? On paper, the system looks great, but in reality, it's totally failing an entire demographic.
But, even if we could somehow design a perfectly unbiased AI, that's only half the battle. The other half, the much more unpredictable part, is us, the humans who use these systems. We bring our own psychological quirks to the table that can create a whole new layer of unfairness.
This is called automation bias. It's this natural human tendency to just trust computers. We see them as objective, purely logical, so we tend to assume their answers are correct, even when our own eyes or gut feeling tells us something is off. We just defer to the machine.
And the real-world danger here is just staggering. Think about this scenario. A trained radiologist sees what looks like a tumor on a scan, but the AI tool, which is right almost all the time, doesn't flag it. So the doctor starts to second-guess their own years of training, and the tumor gets missed. That is the incredible power of automation bias, and it can literally have life-or-death consequences.
Okay, so beyond just individual trust, we can also measure fairness on a much bigger scale. This is where a legal idea called disparate impact comes into play. And it doesn't care about anyone's intentions. It only looks at the results. The big question is, does the AI systems process end up hurting one group of people way more than another?
So how do we actually measure that? Well, a common guideline used in law and statistics is the 4/5 rule. Let's go back to our job screening AI. If it hires, say, 10% of male applicants, then to be seen as fair, it has to hire at least 8% of female applicants. That's 4/5, or 80%. If that rate for female applicants drops any lower, that's a huge red flag for disparate impact.
All right, so what happens if your application gets rejected and you feel like something's not right? You shouldn't have to just accept a computer says no. You need a way to demand an explanation, a way to pry open the AI's so-called black box.
And this brings us to a massive concept in AI today: explainability. It's the ability to understand why an AI made the decision it did. I mean, without it, you can't challenge an error, you can't spot bias, and ultimately, you can't really trust the system. It is absolutely essential.
So, the big question is, how do we actually get that explanation? How do you make a super complex algorithm show its work? Well, generally speaking, there are two main ways to go about it.
The first path is to build what's called an interpretable model. Right from the start, you can think of it as a glass box. Its logic is designed to be totally transparent, so you can follow the exact path it took to get to a conclusion. The other option is for those really powerful black box models. With those, we can only try to create an approximation of its reasoning after it's already made a decision.
And this, right here,
leads to one of the biggest trade-offs in AI today. Those simple, glass box models, they're perfectly transparent, but often they're just not as powerful or accurate. The complex black box models can be incredibly accurate, but their so-called explanations are really just best guesses. They might not even reflect the true, messy logic that happened inside. So what do you choose? Perfect clarity or top-tier performance? It's a tough call.
So knowing all this, the hidden biases, our tendency to overtrust, the trade-offs with explainability, how do we move forward? How do we build a future where we can actually trust these AI systems? Well, it all comes down to designing for fairness right from the very beginning. So let's recap. We followed our job application on its little journey. We saw how bias can be baked right into the algorithm, how our own minds can trick us into trusting the machine too much. And we've looked at the tools we have, like explainability, to start demanding some answers.
This basically gives you a toolkit. The next time an AI is involved in a big decision, these are the questions you can ask. First, how was this thing designed, and what exactly is it trying to achieve? Is there algorithmic bias? Second, does it produce fair results for everyone, or does it hurt certain groups? That's disparate impact. Third, can you please explain why it made this specific decision about me? That's explainability. And finally, and this is a big one, is there a human being in the loop who can actually step in and override the machine? That's our check against automation bias.
And all of this leaves us with a really fundamental question we have to grapple with. As these systems get more and more powerful, we have to ask ourselves, if an AI can't explain its reasoning, if it can't answer the simple question, why, should we really be giving it the power to decide our futures at all? It's definitely something to think about.